here we go. So what we have is we have the marks on the flywheel. I'll show you the timing pointers up front on the other side. So in the book it tells me that max spark advance is 23 degrees. So I'm going to have to adjust that wide open stop screw to make sure that this lever doesn't go any further than 23 degrees. And I'm going to show you a trick about that. This is old school stuff from old mechanical carbureted engines from through the 1970s and 80s, and then it all goes away. So now here is they don't give you real well, but there's 0 degrees. So this is advanced. This is before top dead center, all the way up to 23. Now the reason they do this is they give you 0 degrees and they go the other way. Now in the book, the pickup timing, this is a 70 horse, and the pickup timing is 6 to 8 degrees after top dead center, interesting enough. So for anybody that's used to an automotive engine, and for some of the 3-liter engines, it's actually after top dead center or right at 0 degrees. Right, so the first number is 6 to 8 degrees after top dead center. And what I'm going to do is I want to add just the right amount of timing. So here is 0, right? And I'm going to go to 5 and then 6 degrees. I want to hit it right at 6 degrees because I want as much advance I can with the fuel today because the fuel sucks. Right, so you see this number over here, 464. So this is a measurement that's done through the top cylinder with a dial indicator. We don't have to worry about that because that's already been done years ago. I looked at the timing pointer. There's 2 screws. They haven't been messed with. But what I want is maximum spark advance. So it says here. So when I come over here, I can see it's 23 degrees. Now, today's fuel is not the greatest. So because he may use 87 octane, 89 octane, I'm gonna just put this just a little bit less, a couple of degrees less. And the reason I'm gonna do that is so we don't detonate a piston. So maybe 21 degrees maximum spark advance. Now, I can't run this boat in my backyard wide open throttle. I can't do that. And this is the way you're supposed to do it, is jump in the boat, take it for a ride. That's not gonna happen. So I'm actually gonna put a spark gap tester on here. I'm gonna put the throttle, full throttle, all the way up. And I'm gonna check and see where it is. And I'm gonna set my stop screw. So let me show you where that is. Right, so here is your timing. And this is your maximum stop screw. And as you can see, it appears that somebody has really backed this out. And I'm a little nervous that that's been done. So I want to make sure that that timing is on the pointer in the front of the engine at that 21 degrees. Cool it down a little bit. Don't burn it up. All right. And the other one is this screw down here. I'll loosen it up. And then I'll zoom in on this one. And this screw right here is loose, and that you can see the actual mechanism move. So somebody's been in here and they've been playing around with everything. So I'm going to adjust all of these, and then I'm going to put a drop of blue Loctite on here before I bring this screw down, and I'm going to lock it in place. I'm going to hold the screw and snug it up with a wrench. I'm going to do the same thing here and the same thing here, so hopefully nobody will go in there and mess with it for the next, I think this engine's almost 50 years old, so still got great compression. We'll see. So let's get started. Here's another piece to this, and that's if you've never worked on one of these old engines and you're trying to get this shift linkage piece out to make the adjustments, you go out of your mind kind of looking at it, but there's a lock clip behind here, so you got to push this little piece of plastic without breaking it with a screwdriver off, and it's basically hooks in behind it. So this piece wants to come up, but it stops because the hook's underneath there. So you got to push the piece of plastic in the center out. So you grab a little screwdriver. I'm going to push it back just a little bit, and then it comes right out like that. And then the whole mechanism comes forward, and you pull it out like that. So that's how you get it apart. Just remember that you have to push that tab in. It's on the back side. It's got a latch on it. Don't push too hard, you'll break it. Especially these older ones, be gentle. All right, so number one, just to zoom in, I'm looking at this timing pointer here. I got my starter button here. I've got my spark gap tester on the engine, so all the plugs are removed. I've disconnected the engine harness, which gives me spark, or you could turn the key on. I'm back here anyway, so I left the harness unplugged. That's the main engine harness here. That's unplugged. That allows, in a 2-stroke outboard, an old one, the key switch grounds the ignition. So if you unplug that, it'll start. That's a way to test the key switch too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my starter button, I've hooked that up, and I'm going to crank it over, and I'm going to shine my timing light, which I have on #1 spark plug, and I want to see what the spark timing is at idle. So I have it all the way at idle. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but so let me look again, and I think I got it right on the money. Yep. Right, so that is about 7 degrees, 6 to 8, so I went to 7. That's perfect. Now I'm going to go over and lock that lock nut and put some blue Loctite. I'll show you that. So if you're wondering how I'm doing this, I have a Stevens, and Stevens Instruments is a company. I've had their product for decades. And this is a spark gap tester. So when you crank the engine over, you have spark, right? And that allows me to keep the ignition system alive while I advance the timing or retard the timing all the way. So I have that all set up. I've got my pickup on #1 cylinder, which, interesting, on this engine goes to the bottom coil. That's how it's made, and that's how it's rigged. If you go to anything over probably in the early 1980s, mid 80s, #1 is up here to this coil, #2 is here, #3 is here. If you go back in time like this one, this is #3, this is #2, this is #1. It's just backwards from what I expected. We've done some changes. I've changed a few things on here. I did some modifications. I changed some fuel lines. They're routed wrong. Tie wrapping some wires. There's a lot of little things in here. I changed the bottom back mount because that was broken. What else? Too many things I can't think of right here. I had to shorten the fuel line because that was kinked, because that was going to be hit by the cowling, so you got to watch out for that. I've still got to tie wrap all this stuff behind here. I may have to do some adjustments here, but it's all those things when the covers go on, how it looks. So let's go over to the other side and see that pickup timing. Okay, as usual, the daylight's fading. I've been out here all day working on this thing. I have the throttle hooked up. That's holding the throttle shaft to the park position at idle. I balanced the carburetors, and this is the screw that I'm messing with. So this is your idle speed screw. So I got it set right at 7 degrees. And what I'm going to do, so nobody can mess with it in the future unless they want to really get in trouble, is I'm going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on the threads of this. I've already cleaned it off with some carb cleaner. So I'm going to put 1 drop of blue Loctite on there, and I hope that nobody will mess with this ever again. Hold that screw so it doesn't move. Bring that nut down. A little crusty. It's all good. Right, and then a 3/8 wrench, I'm going to snug that up, and that'll lock that. All right, I put the Loctite on there. I got my 3/8 wrench and my Phillips head. I'm going to hold this so it doesn't turn, and then I'm just going to lightly snug this up. You don't have to put a lot of force on it. There we go. The Loctite will do all the work. So nobody's going to mess with that again. Now, this is max timing, so we're going to do that one next. I'm going to set it at max, and I'm going to have to make an adjustment on this maybe. I doubt that it's set right because I can just imagine why this is out. Now, the other thing that dealers do or manufacturers do is, here's what they do too, is they put a little Loctite out here. So let's do that. This is what you'll find, usually red. So there we go. I put a little dab of blue there. Hopefully that informs people, don't mess with that screw. It's been set to where it should be, and we're going to move on to the high speed. All right, now with high speed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to actually hold the throttle, and I'm going to shift it into forward, and I'm just going to move the throttle all the way to full throttle. I have the spark gap tester on here again, so it can't start, but what I want to do is I want to make this high speed spark screw max out. So I've just moved these numbers down just a touch because of the ethanol fuel that we have. This engine didn't run on ethanol fuel. So I'm pulling the timing back a little bit to keep the engine from getting too hot. This also is a 70 horsepower 3-cylinder engine. It's rated at 50 realistically, and then they bumped up the fuel and the timing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it back a little bit just to keep it so if they go out water skiing or something like that and this prop's too big, they're not going to burn up the engine. I mean, it's a 1980 engine. I can't remember, but it's old. I mean, it's really old. So it got great compression, runs pretty smooth. We're going to dial it in. So let's see what happens now. Alright, so max timing screw is bottomed out here. We're at max timing. I'm going to crank the engine over with the starter button and we're going to see what our timing is. I'm going to have to turn a little bit so you can't see it, but I'm going to look at the light and see what we got. Way off. Okay. Oh yeah, it's way advanced, I believe. Oh yeah. Yeah, she's way advanced, which is not good. Somebody's trying to get a lot of horsepower out of this, and they don't know what they're doing, so they buried this screw out. So this is the reason why I'm here. This screw right here is way, way too far backed out, which lets the timing come way up. So we're going to see if somebody's actually just, I haven't touched the screw yet, so. Nope, somebody went in here and overtimed it, I guess. Yeah, 7/16. Right, so there we go. Now we can start setting this to the right timing. We have to screw this screw in to retard the timing. It's way up past 21 degrees. I was afraid of that. So we're going to just crank this screw in until we hit that 21 degrees. It's 23, but I went in at 21 again because of the ethanol fuel. So I'm going to retard this quite a bit. Let's see what we got. Let's just see what that looks like. Just for a guess. Still more. Wow. And yes, this is correct looking to me. Should never be that far in. That's why I knew something was wrong. That'll work. One little partial screw in. We're done. That looks pretty good. Let's see what it looks like. There it is, 21. That's it. Alright, so we got that done. So, idle timing, max timing. We've done our idle. We've got to check our max opening for our carburetors. That should be pretty close. I'll make sure of that. But I want to make sure this is okay. Flashlight. I'm going to need a flashlight to look in here. Yep. And they are wide open. So that screw's okay. That's one they're not going to mess with down here. That's their max. Wait a minute. That is this screw here. is the max throttle screw, so we can back that out and actually make sure that's in the right position to hold it wide open. I think it's going to need cables. I think that's the next thing we're going to need is cables here. Yep. There's wide open. Yep. Undo this. Screw that into it. You got to turn this wide open throttle stop screw in. There we go. That looks pretty close. So this screw here is the full throttle. And yep, they're full throttle, so I'm going to tighten that nut down. Hold that screw for wide open, and then snug that down. That one I'm not as concerned about. This one I am, and this one I am. So this one, make sure I snug that one down. I believe I did. Yeah. I'm going to put a drop of blue Loctite on that. So I'm going to check it one more time since we're here. And that's full. Yeah, 30 amp charge. That's right there. That should do it. Alright, so that's how you're gonna set your idle timing, stop, your wide open throttle RPM. This is the major one. This is the one that everybody makes the mistake. You know, don't start backing that screw out and get more RPM out of it because you'll blow up the engine. This is the wide open throttle stop screw. You'll just bend the plates in the linkage if you mess with that. And then down here is your idle stop screw. We just have to verify that that's set up right. And then pretty much fire it up, dial in the carburetors, and see where we go. We're gonna see how this thing runs tomorrow. Getting a little dark, mosquitoes are coming out here, so we'll finish this one up tomorrow. Alright, so we're working on this engine, and I got a torque spark plugs. So I'm gonna get out my $500 Snap-on digital torque wrench. And we're going to set that to 20 foot-pounds. 20. And then we're going to dial in my original Bonnie Utica torque wrench to 20 foot-pounds. And that is from probably 1988, my guess is when I bought this, and I've always kept it in my toolbox. So we're gonna click these off 20 and see what happens with a Snap-on. How close is it? It'll tell me digitally. I've always loved this torque wrench, but I bought the other one because I have to do angle torque. And you can't do it any other way unless you use an angle torque gauge. And the Snap-on one's really, really accurate. Alright, so here we go. 1988 technology and probably 2021 technology. Let's see what it says. Oh. There. So let's loosen it up. see what it does at 15. See if we hit 15. I think it's pretty accurate, but this is a no man's guess. And I always zero them out every time I use them. As you've seen on all my videos, you know that you have to zero out torque wrenches. So now this is 15 foot-pounds. This is 5 less. Solid motion. We're going to go with the digital one. And we're going to see what it reads if it's at 15. So let's go to 16. Let's see if I can tighten it more. 11, 12, 13, 14. Right on the money. It's virtually right on the money. Here we go again. You ready? There's 15. Up 15 point at 16 foot-pounds. So the old girl's pretty good, but we're gonna blast it up to 20 here because I know this technology is so much better. And we'll torque these to 20. There we go. This one's probably already done. Yep, they're done. And you know the funny part was when I stopped, check this out. This is where I stopped when it beeped. 20 foot-pounds exactly. So, proof in the pudding. Bonnie Utica, awesome tools. Bought those years and years ago. I love them. Too bad you can't buy them anymore. Snap-on's great. I love this thing, especially for angle torque. But just to show you, I always take the batteries out. I don't want it to decalibrate itself. Just another thing, it's kind of cool.